I'm ready to start. Yeah, okay. So welcome everybody this evening. Thanks for joining us. As Louisa said, I am Nikki from Hereford and Worcestershire Group Training Association, abbreviated to HWGTA for obvious reasons. We're Ofsted Outstanding. We're in the top 7% of the country for training providers. And hopefully, as I go through the presentation, you'll understand how we've achieved this going through. Okay. Bear with me because it seems to be sticking a little bit when I go to the next slide. Right, okay. So yeah, bear with me, even though I'm tapping. So there's actually 750 different types of apprenticeships available that you can research. We can't deliver every type of apprenticeship that is out there, but there are many other training providers in your area, and obviously Birmingham location as well as Worcestershire as well. You've obviously got Worcestershire apprenticeships that will also be able to help you with any questions that you may have regards any other section. So you're able to do an apprenticeship in medicine, teaching, plumbing, many, let's say it's over 700 different types of apprenticeships. So please just do the research. What we deliver at Hereford and Worcester Group Training is accountancy. So those of you that want to maybe go into becoming a chartered accountant, this is a route for you. You start off at AAT2, progress to 3, and then on to 4, and then on to your ACCA or your CIMA. Business administration, that can be very varied where you're actually going to do a business administration. It could be in a veterinary practice, it could be in a theatre. So if you've got an idea about what you're actually passionate about, 9 times out of 10, there is an office facility within that environment, perhaps for you to do a business apprenticeship. We also have many vacancies in schools, maybe which ultimately could lead into teaching, maybe just through a different route, a scenic route. Also, we deliver customer service. Customer service is very similar, can be in an area that you're passionate about working in, but it's more dealing with people either face-to-face or maybe on the telephone. We also deliver engineering. Engineering is vast. It's everything you see around you, from manufacture, from everything that's probably surrounding you as you're logged on now to your computer. We were formed in 1967 by a group of engineers that said, rather than train our engineers individually, let's open a centre and get people to do it for us. So we've been around a long time. But yeah, Liam's going to talk a bit more about the engineering various pathways, and I'll also touch on it in a moment as well. And then we have progression routes. Once you've completed an apprenticeship, you then can go on to do a further apprenticeship in either coaching or management or maybe another area. So this works. That's a few of employers that we work with in the Worcestershire area. You'll recognise perhaps some of the larger employers on there, such as Worcester Bosch, Keynes Foods, Mazak, obviously Roxal, NHS, all the councils. But as I say, we actually work with 206 employers across Herefordshire and Worcestershire. Many from Stourbridge do travel into Worcester. So there are obviously those lots of opportunities. I think we've placed from some students from Stourbridge currently with Armada. So whether you know anybody that's currently working there, but that is just a small selection of employers. Many of those employers will actually be at our next open event on the 17th of February. So it's a great opportunity to come along and speak to those employers and ask for some work experience or ask them about their vacancies, hand out CVs. So please use our open event to your advantage. So please, if you can, register to attend, saves you time booking in, and come to our open events. I'll have the details of our open events further down through the presentation. So what is it equal to? Everybody knows how important your A-levels are, GCSEs were. So if you go in at a level 2, which is some of our engineering vacancies, and all of customer service, that is equal to another grade, but not grade 9 to 4 GCSEs, 5 grade GCSEs. But levels are irrelevant, really. Don't get hung up on levels, because what you're looking for is a well-paid, good job to get into, hopefully, a lucrative career. Most of our vacancies are level 3, which is majority of engineering, all of business. Accountancy works slightly different. You'd go in at a level 2 and progress to 3, AAT3. And that is equal to another 2 A-levels. And I know I meet with many sixth formers that want to go in at the higher level, straight in at level 4. Now, there are some vacancies available in level 4, extremely competitive, but please, you know, apply for them. But it just making you being realistic here that most are filled. Level 4 vacancies get filled by people that have previously done a level 3. But there are some direct entry level 4s, mainly with like the bigger, larger companies out there. But as I say, just keep an open mind about levels. It's just about getting into a job and then progressing. And Liam is going to talk about this a bit further on as well. He'll talk about his pathway. And obviously, ultimately, as Liam will speak shortly, you can go up to a level 6, level 7 through your employer or paid for by your employer. So you're still able to get a degree, but through the different route, whereby you may just go to university maybe 2 days a week or block release. But it's all paid for by your employer. There is no cost to the apprentice. It's all paid for. So you have no debt whatsoever. And again, Liam will speak about that in a moment. So we deliver customer service as part of our commerce programs, as well as business and accountancy. So you'll see how long they take to complete on there. So accountancy could be 15 months to do AAT2 and then up to 4 years to complete your AAT4. And obviously then you'll go on to your higher level, as I mentioned, your ACCA or your CIMA. It's a weekly day release. You come into the college, so to speak, or Worcester Group training, 1 day to do the accountancy theory. So it's profit, loss, tax, credit. Similar to business administration, but it's regular day release. I think it's about 23 weeks out of the year that you actually come in and do face-to-face learning, although it is 1 day a week still off the job, but it could be delivered online training. And we recruit all year round for business and customer service, unlike accountancy and engineering where there's only one intake. We recruit all year round. So at any point in your future, you perhaps find yourself maybe not going on the path that you hope to be on. Please think, if you're interested in an apprenticeship, that we can recruit all year round at any point. And there is no upper age limit to start an apprenticeship, any age. As long as you're 16 and over, you're able to do an apprenticeship. There is no ceiling at all. So business, level 3, 2 A levels. Employers will look at your grades. If you've got A levels in business, obviously that's a bonus. The same with customer service. Employers will look at your academic ability. And you'll see some of the jobs there on the right-hand side. It is vast, the amount of jobs that come up under commerce. Many perhaps find their strengths once they get into the workplace. Maybe it's sales, maybe it's marketing. Maybe you're good at finance, you might be good in purchasing, quality control, obviously all the different types linked to accountancy. So keep an open mind because there are so many interesting jobs that come up under commerce. Moving on now to engineering. Again, you'll see some of the jobs along the side there. I think it's about 13 different pathways that you're able to complete as part of an engineering apprenticeship. So level 2 is approximately 2 years, and that's approximately 30 weeks in the training centre, or it may be a block release programme where sometimes you're with us, the college, and sometimes you're in with the workplace. And you need to be aiming for grades, passes in maths and English. But if there's some 3s in there that you perhaps lower struggle, then you go on to a level 2. But the majority start at level 3, which is another 2 A levels. And it's approximately 6 to 9 months off the job for the first year, whereby you're learning the basics of engineering in our training centre at Worcester Group Training. Some companies, as I say, do block release. So it's 6 weeks at Worcester Group Training, 6 weeks in company, approximately 42 weeks overall in the training centre, just depending on how many extra units that your employer has paid for you to do as to when you go into company. It tends to be round about the end of the summer that you'll go into company. And that is to get onto the level 3, you have to have good passes in maths and English. A levels would be a bonus, obviously, with what you're doing now in your sixth form. And it is a 4-year programme to do a level 3, although it can be done in 3 years. And then you would start your higher level in your 4th year. So you'd be tying up the theory side of your level 3, but starting the practical side of your level 4. And perhaps Liam again can touch on that as when he does his presentation. We're above the national average for females in engineering. We always appreciate applications from females into engineering. The national average is 7.5%. We are running at 10%, which we're very proud of, our females into engineering. So a great pathway. Females make tremendous engineers. It's a very lengthy process, I'm afraid, to apply for an apprenticeship with HWGTA and maybe with other training providers as well. All delivered slightly differently with other training providers. Just find out, go to their open events. But with us, you complete an application form online. We then ask for an updated CV. Please make sure there's no mistakes on your CV, especially if you're going for business. Make sure it's all grammatically correct and it's all up to date. Obviously, if you're waiting for A-level results, you'll put predicted grades on there and then make sure it's updated when you do get your actual grades through. Then you will have to sit an initial assessment. If it's engineering, it's face-to-face, and our first assessments are happening in February, which isn't far off. So you have to complete an application form by then. We have to have had a copy of your CV. We then obtain references after you've done your initial assessment. So for commerce, accountancy, business, customer service, initial assessment tests are done online. Nothing you can revise for. Everybody has to do an initial assessment. It's just part of the application process. But as I say, they are face-to-face for engineering at Worcester Group Training. Takes approximately 2 hours. You will be given an invitation to come in on a certain date, and then you may have an interview straight after. So bear in mind that you could be away, for at least maybe 3 hours, including travel, or maybe longer. Then you'll have an interview with our staff. So for instance, if you're applying for accountancy, we'll ask, do you want to go into an accountancy practice, or do you want to work in a finance department, such as the NHS? If it's engineering, what pathway are you hoping to go into? Logistics, where you can travel to, because obviously you go straight into company for accountancy, business and customer service. Slightly different for engineering, where you are off the job for maybe a short time. But everything has to be taken into account. And then we'll prepare you for employer interview. We will email you with the vacancies that we think are best matched to what information you've given us and what you've said on your application form. We'll then run that by you. You're happy to go for this interview if you're called. We then send your application pack, which is made up of your test results, your CV, any references that you've got from either part-time work or sixth form. That pack then goes out to employers. They will then let us know if they would like to meet you for interview. You go along for interview, you do the research on the company, find out everything there is to know about them, prepare at least 3 questions to ask at interview. If you've got a portfolio made up of your GCSE results, anything you've done outside of college, maybe like St John Ambulance or Duke of Edinburgh, whatever it might be, anything that you can display at interview to show why you're the best candidate for that position. Also, if you're going for engineering, think about what you've built, fixed, made, take photographs of it, print them out, put those in your portfolio. It's really competitive to get onto an apprenticeship. So you've really got to think above and beyond how you're going to impress that employer. It might be one person at interview, it might be a panel of 9. So just be prepared. So our aim is to match suitable apprentices to suitable placements, but the employers make the final decision, not us. So you might need a backup plan. I would say apply for more than one apprenticeship. If you've got jobs, that's fine as well. Make sure if you're going to a job, it might be that perhaps you might want to do an apprenticeship to back up what you're doing in your job role. So that's another way of getting onto apprenticeship if you've already found your employer. We do have, obviously we work with 206 companies and employers do come to us with their vacancies. But if you've got a family member or a friend that is willing to take you on as an apprentice, if it's something we deliver, accountancy, business, customer service, engineering, please let us know that you found your employer and we will put all the wheels in motion for you to do an apprenticeship with your found employer. But if you haven't got one, obviously you need to go through our channels, which is absolutely fine. Try to arrange work experience prior to applying for an apprenticeship. It really does help. And I say a great way of getting work experience is if you come to our open event on the 17th of February. There'll be many of our employers there will be offering you that opportunity. The starting salary currently is minimum is £283 a week, but some employers pay £425 a week, which equals 25k starting salary. It does vary from employer to employer. Obviously, you're untrained, you haven't got any training, and that obviously is reflected in the pay per week. But as I say, many employers do pay the higher end per week now. Minimum salary is 14,700 if you're paid at 283, but it's only for the first year of your apprenticeship. After that, it has to go up to at least the minimum for your age, if not more, once they've made you a permanent member of staff. There's no guarantee. It just depends on the finances of the company at the time, but bearing in mind they have paid several thousands to train you on the apprenticeship, so it's more likely that they will try and keep you on. No cost the apprentice. Apprentices don't pay for anything. There are no course fees. You don't buy any materials. Everything is provided by us or by your employer. And obviously no student debt. You don't pay a penny if you eventually go on to university, or paid for by your employer. And I think everybody's fully aware of how difficult it is if you go through the traditional route going to university. Obviously, you come out with excess of £70,000 debt, which is quite a heavy burden to have on anybody. So seriously think about getting to university through the apprenticeship route, and Leon will cover that. Everybody on that board started off as an apprentice, maybe from school, maybe from college, maybe later on through work. Many go on to own their own companies. There's 10 times as many people I could put on PowerPoint slides. But yes, if you're driven, ambitious, there's no reason why you shouldn't be owning your own company, or certainly director, chief executive in the not too distant future. As I've been mentioning quite a few times, our next open event is on Tuesday, the 17th of February next year, 4 to 6:30. There will be about 15-20 employers at our open event. So it's a great way of coming to ask about the vacancies, asking for work experience, having a look round our engineering training centre and our accountancy classrooms and our business classrooms, listening to apprentices' stories. They sell it for me when they come and do their talks about the best thing they've ever done is done an apprenticeship. Many now are on some fantastic salaries. Many are in managerial roles. So please come and listen to their stories. If you can register to attend, it saves you time when you come to our open event. We won't need to take so many more details from you, so you obviously get in a lot quicker. I will do a presentation very similar to what you've just seen this evening. Also, you will get access to our training staff and obviously speak to apprentices. So the benefits of doing an apprenticeship: obviously get paid from day one, you're earning a salary. You'll learn all the basic valuable skills, paid holidays, take your holidays more or less whenever you want to take your holidays, not in the most expensive school holiday time, college holiday time. Develop your knowledge, skills and experience. That's what you will gain from doing an apprenticeship, which employers are crying out for young people with those skills, and not just people that have just been maybe gone through the academic route that haven't got those practical skills. You will get those practical skills. Build strong working relationships. I hear this so often from apprentices. They will be working with contractors, other employers. People get headhunted, get offered fantastic salaries. And that is a great way of building these strong working relationships from starting your apprenticeship, seeing who you meet along the way, and obviously increase your future earning potential. You can go and trace those big jobs wherever they might be in the city once you've got that experience and that qualification. So please follow us on lots of information there on our socials. Go on our website. There's so many videos that you can watch. As I say, lots of information. And please, if you can, come along to our open event. Okay, that's me finished. I'm going to stop sharing now. There we go.
Wonderful, Nikki. Thank you so much. That was a
You're
real
welcome.
whistle stop tour. And we'll hand over to Liam, and then we'll come back online for questions and answers and kind of wrap that up really neatly. But thank you very much indeed, Nikki. And we look forward to your presentation, Liam, and we'll come back again shortly. Thank you.
Perfect. No pressure. Thanks, Nikki, for setting the bar really, really high there. So let me just share my screen. So yeah, hi, I'm Liam Pember. I'm the Utilities Maintenance Manager here at Heineken. I'm just going to talk a little bit through the route that I've taken along with HWGTA. So first of all, what is Heineken? I'm sure a lot of you on the call know what Heineken is, but we've got 4 UK sites, and I work at the Hereford site where we make all of the cider for the portfolio. So on the bottom right hand side just shows a layout of the site, and it does sort of span the whole length of that. It sort of runs from the middle of Hereford all the way to the outskirts. And just to give you a sort of idea of the scale, the left-hand side is a picture of one of the vessels that we ferment the cider within, and you can see that in comparison to a normal sort of lamppost. And then those are the same tanks which are at the bottom of the picture on the right-hand side as well. So massive sort of cider maker. We have the capacity to make, I think it's 500 million litres of cider per year, which is quite a lot. I think with the capacity that we've got, we could actually supply all of the UK cider market. And I think as well, we use 30% of all of the apples in the UK to make this cider. So really, really big industry, especially around Hereford. So yeah, on to me. So my journey, I started in 2016. I left straight from high school and I applied to HWGTA. As sort of Nikki was talking about, the sort of heritage of HWGTA, my dad actually went there in, I think it's 1980. So a while, obviously, before I ended up joining. But essentially, most things, much of the same in terms of the hand fitting. They also do the physical activities, and also they do a week away where you learn more about how you interact with people. So it's like an adventure week where you do things like caving, you do sort of team building activities, and that is like one of the really key takeaways I take from the first year. Obviously, you learn a lot about engineering, which is the route that I did, and you learn a lot about the technical and the safety side of things. But that week away really sets you up in terms of even being able to speak to people. At the end of it, you do a presentation and you present that back to your employers, which is really nerve-wracking as what was I then? Probably 17-year-old in feeding back to the employers. But it was a really, really good time, and that's fully funded by the employers as well. So you get to do all of this stuff again completely for free, and they're paying you at the same time. And I know when I did it, the pay was really, really good. For essentially, you're not working on site, you're off site, you're learning all of these different things. And I would say HWGTA has moved on quite a way since when my dad went there in 1980. We did actually compare some of the hand fitting things. So in the first year, you make certain jigs and pieces, and we were actually comparing them, his from 1980 and mine from 2016, which is quite interesting. Obviously mine was better than his, but he had another opinion. Anyway, going through the rest of my journey, so I did my level 3 apprenticeship, and I actually finished that a year early, and I was lucky enough that they ended up making me into a full day technician before they actually needed to. So I ended up doing that for about a year, and then I became an automation engineer, which is essentially for Heineken. It's writing program for machines and robotics. So if you think about just a can of cider that's made here, we make 20 cans every second. So it's quite a complicated piece of machinery that you may have to make small adjustments to. And whilst I was in that automation engineering role, I actually was offered the chance to do a degree apprenticeship, which was in manufacturing engineering, which I was a bit nervous at the time because me and my partner just bought a house together, and quite a lot of work to do at the same time, but I did it anyway. And so we ended up doing our house up, doing the degree, and then I applied for the utilities maintenance manager role, which made it even more interesting. But you can see there from my brief sort of journey of 9 years, I've come out with an MVQ level 2, a BTEC level 3, an MVQ level 3, a H&C as well, which was part of the apprenticeship route for Heineken, and which was delivered through HWGTA, and also the degree which I got a first class honours for, which I'm really, really proud of as well. So you're probably wondering, what do I actually do in my current role as utilities maintenance manager? So starting at the top left, where we've got those two sort of big cylinders, those are boilers. Each one of them is 16 megawatts worth of energy is used to generate steam that we use around the site, which is equivalent to 5,400 kettles, each one of them. So quite a lot of energy. We don't use it to make cups of tea, we use it in the process. And then also we have a refrigeration plant, which is equivalent to about 400 domestic fridges. So, sorry, 4,000, not 400. So it just sort of puts everything into a sort of scale. In the top right is a multi-million-pound project that was put in at Manchester, which I was luckily enough to go and see and be a little bit part of, which was the heat pump project, which is to reduce some carbon emissions on the site. So I think that can do 6 megawatts of heating from waste heat sources, which was also partially funded by a government grant as well. So there was quite a lot of interest in that project, and that is now fully up and running. Also in the bottom right, we actually do CO2 reclamation on site. So we take the CO2 that's generated when we make the cider, and then we put that back into carbonate, and that can, or does, recover about 10,000 tons of CO2 per year, which means that we don't have to buy any CO2 in as well. And I'm really proud that whilst I've been in my role, I've been able to completely change the standard of the equipment as well. So you can see the sort of level of cleanliness and detail that's gone in to that as well. But the main sort of things that I focus on are energy, electricity, thermal and water, and then a whole host of other different priorities as well. One of the key things that I think Nikki touched upon is the fact that I think the apprenticeship gives you not only the competency that we've just seen in the previous slide, where we're talking very much in detail in terms of equipment and how it works and how you can repair it, but also then the soft skills as well. So this is essentially my team structure. So we've got a whole different host of different people within that structure. And I think the apprenticeship gave me the confidence that I was able to then lead them and actually push forward with the team. And I also ended up going back to HWGTA to do an ILM course, which is a manager sort of training course as well, which I got a lot of good stuff out from as well. But essentially, I've gone full circle. I've come from being the apprentice, where I've obviously done all the tasks. I've then worked my way through, become the employer, and actually then started to help the new apprentices go through their journey as well. I think as well, if you manage to get in with a good company, you can really go anywhere. With some of the ex-apprentices that have been here, there's I'm a maintenance manager. One of them actually works for Western Europe now, and looks after and gets sort of flown in when there's really detailed issues, and that person came from HWGTA. The other one is an electrical specialist that looks after all of the electrical equipment for Hereford and Ledbury as well. He's an ex-apprentice at HWGTA. We've got a number of people which sort of get pushed around the business because I think the apprenticeship route is so powerful. I honestly can't recommend it enough. I think going from obviously 16, being trained by different people, to then flipping it on its head and then becoming the trainer is, I never thought I would be sort of in this position when I first started anyway. I think as well, it just gives you so many different avenues. When I first went into the engineering apprenticeship. I was really keen on the fact that I was going to be a mechanical engineer. That's all I sort of wanted to do. I didn't want to do anything electrical, and then I became an automation electrical engineer for 4 years. So I think even though, like what Nikki was saying, there's so many different streams of engineering, especially in a place like here where you're doing everything from shaking apples off a tree to, you know, complex robotics on a packaging line. So definitely can't recommend apprenticeships enough. That's all I've got. Don't know if there's any questions on that.
That's, I mean, what a journey you've come on, Liam. I think that's fantastic. Thank you. And thank you for coming back online as well, Nikki. Please do, students and any parents, put any questions you may have or comments you may have in the chat function. And I've got some pre-asked questions anyway. But if I could just kind of ask a couple of questions just generally. Nikki, can I just ask you first? Because you are one of the training providers, obviously, when we're looking at apprenticeships, just to reiterate to students that you're applying for a job and a vacancy, but can you tell us, can students apply to you directly and you find them placements, or are they always looking for the placement first? Can you just explain that a little bit so students may understand the general process, please?
Yeah. Well, some employers, they do their own recruitment, such as Armada and Mazak. So if you go on their website, you could apply direct to them, but you must also send an application form into us as well, because if you're not successful with one of those companies that does their own recruitment, we will be able to send you for other interviews alongside the one that you've applied for, you may prefer, as well. So we hear it quite often of people apply direct to, say, Mazak or Armada, aren't successful, but they don't actually know they're not successful until quite far down the line, whereby a lot of the vacancies may have been filled. So my advice is to, you know, not put all your eggs in one basket, apply to us and to that company and go for several interviews with other employers. I think the NHS might also do their own recruitment, so have a look on their website as well. So basically they have the vacancies, but we deliver the training on behalf of those companies. So for instance, Mazak recruit up to maybe 15 per year. So once they've selected who they're going to offer their vacancies to, they'll hand them all over to us the first week in September, and we deliver the training, as I say, on behalf of those companies. But some people do find their own employers. If you've got your own employer, obviously that's great, fantastic. It's obviously you're already a success. You're successful at having a placement. But if you haven't got your employers, we do have vacancies. But my advice is to apply as soon as possible to be at the front of the queue for those vacancies. So Heineken, for instance, you interview as early as April, don't you, Liam?
Yeah, we like to get in there early and take the cream from the crop.
Yeah, because you've said before, Heineken have said, people that are keen, and this isn't just engineering, this is across the board, accountancy, business, customer service. If you're keen and you know that that's what you want to do, you get in early. Your application form is there at the front of the queue. People that tend to apply later is just kind of like, the employers sometimes see it as maybe it's just a last resort. They don't really know what they want to do. Oh, well, we don't know what we want to do. We haven't got onto higher level apprenticeships. We're just going to, you know, apply late. But I would say apply for everything. Apply for jobs, apply for higher level, apply for level 3 apprenticeship, get application forms in everywhere. And then hopefully as time goes on, you know, you'll start going for the interviews, do a bit more research, find out, you know, which pathway you're going to take. But if you go on to a lower level, that's absolutely fine, because you will be able to start off not knowing anything. Quite often when you go into those higher level apprenticeships, you'll expect to know quite a bit, hit the ground running. It's a lot of pressure. And sometimes the pay doesn't really reflect if you relocate to those higher levels as well. As the route that Liam's gone through, starting off at a level 3, you've obviously been able to, you know, have some money behind you, get driving, sort your car out, you know, maybe still live at home. And then the next step is at level 4, which by then your salary as I say, you'd have the savings to live off, so you can perhaps relocate to those other areas if that's, you know, what you need to do.
I think
that's really sorry
that you said there, Nikki, was the reason that we take them straight away is because with an apprenticeship you get out what you put into it, like massively. Like, for example, when you do the level 3, like when I did my level 3 apprenticeship, I wasn't just learning what I needed to learn to get by for the level 3. You look out, you're looking for new opportunities, you're trying different things. And being within an employer, you get that knowledge and you get that experience, which gives you that competency, which you just don't get anywhere else. So when I then went on to my level 6, because there was a bit of a break in between, I thought I'd have a nice break, and then COVID happened. So then I didn't end up doing anything. But I did my level 6, and essentially because I'd done all of this extra stuff at my level 3 and in between, you just had that amazing head start versus, because I was doing it alongside people that were just doing the degree and were full time. And I speak to some of them now, and they've all really struggled to get jobs because they just don't have any experience. Which, to be honest, it's quite difficult because like now I'm looking at hiring people, and you see someone with, you know, 8 years worth of industry experience versus someone who's been at college and then to university. It's quite difficult for that person that's just done the uni to edge it over. Yeah.
That's really interesting. And actually, I mean, obviously, because we're an A-levels college and all of our students will be studying A-levels, it has traditionally been the route to go on to university. And we have more and more students, which we're really glad to see you all online this evening. But there are more and more students really hungry for earning and learning and qualifying and gaining that experience. And actually, Faye and myself as careers advisors see a lot of students for one-to-ones who are now really keen to get onto that pathway. We will be having some workshops as we go through the year for the Apprenticeship and Employment Pathway to just talk to students about how to seek these out, how to make these contacts with companies like Hereford, the HWGTA. But can I ask you, Liam, as well, one of the questions that we had in advance was about managing the studying and obviously working at the same time, because it is not an easy option, is it?
No, it's definitely not. And I'm sure that if there's a lot of people on the call that do A levels, they've probably got secondary jobs as well to try and give them some money. The good thing with the apprenticeship is you get 1 day a week, so 20% off the job. That is part of the agreement that the employer and the apprentice agrees to. So even if there's a not a bank holiday, but a half term, you still get that day, and you still have that time to do all of that work. I won't lie that you do have to do a lot of stuff outside of work as well. But if you compare that to maybe working less sociable sort of shifts somewhere else, it probably sort of weighs itself out. It's definitely not easy, but again, it's whatever you put in, you get back in the long run.
Absolutely. And I think some of the things that both of you said that are really important for students to develop whilst they're in college and in part-time work and work experience are those soft skills. And I think actually one of the questions that we had was about how do I stand out in the CV? And I don't know whether both of you, perhaps Nikki first, just from your perspective, and then Liam, now that you're actually employing and taking people on, perhaps you could give an opinion as well. But perhaps Nikki, you could just talk about what you're looking for in potential.
Well, feedback from employers is that they look for an eye-catching CV with lots of information, obviously all the grades, etc. But obviously lots of things they do outside of college. So whether you're a member of a team or you're a captain of a football, whatever it might be, or netball, anything you do outside of college, to give this picture perhaps to an employer about what sort of person you are. But I think they don't want to see just bland CVs. They've got to be aesthetically pleasing. Have a look at templates online. If you're applying for business, have a look about what a CV looks like. Obviously, you might have that experience maybe, but you can perhaps adapt it a little bit to suit, you know, the person that's applying for a certain job. You might need several CVs, you know, depending on what you're actually applying for. So for instance, if you're hoping to get a job in the NHS, you might put perhaps that you've been to St John Ambulance, or you're a caring, empathetic person, to demonstrate, you know, roles that you've paid perhaps into a caring role, or anything that, like business, if you've got, maybe you've organised a charity event or something to show that, you know, you've organised and you're able to adapt transferable skills then into that business world. So just sell yourself on a CV, really. No more than 2 sides. It doesn't need to go on forever. Because if you think maybe an employer is going to look through at least maybe 20 CVs, so, you know, they might just scan over it. So it's just got to be eye-catching, really, and say just sell yourself on paper. Same goes for an application form. You know, if there's a big block, fill it. Put as much information in there as you possibly can. I know with the HWGTA application form, you're not able to save it. So make sure you've got everything to hand, all your dates, etc., when you submit it, and make sure there's no mistakes on there. Keep an eye on your emails as well, especially for initial assessment dates. Amount of candidates that apply and then they just don't reply for maybe a week to confirm, you know, that they're able to attend initial assessment or whatever it might be. But yeah, so maybe Liam's got some more information about CVs.
Yeah, that's really helpful. And Faye's been putting some really useful links in the chat function as well. So over to you, Liam.
Yeah, so it's not really a CV thing, but if you do a cover letter for an application and it's to Heineken, don't spell Heineken wrong. The amount of times I've seen someone, because it's got lots of E's and I's and whatever, people spell that wrong. So whatever you do, don't spell the company name wrong. In terms of a CV, a bit like what Nikki said, keep it brief. Like I've had a job opening for a certain role and I've had 70 odd people apply for it. I don't want to read, you know, 5-6 pages per person. Make sure you put down your key skills, but also a big thing with Heineken is around your behaviours and how you are as a person. That is probably the biggest thing we look at when we're hiring an apprentice, because we're not expecting the person to know really anything about the field, maybe a few interests, but it's okay, if you did get that opportunity, what behaviours do you have that will really elevate you in that position? So for example, if you're hardworking, how have you done that previously? Are you like driven by yourself? You know, you drive, you're learning. When have you done that? And give really specific examples. Because yeah, we're not looking for someone that knows absolutely everything, for example, about engineering. We're looking for someone who has the drive to actually make it through, because 4 years is a long time.
That's really helpful. And I think that's about researching your company as well that you're applying for. And I think that's actually really key. Faye and myself are really keen that students adapt those CVs or applications, I think, as you mentioned, Nikki, to each of those companies. And that takes some research, maybe looking on LinkedIn, joining with people as well, creating a profile yourself and linking, looking at the kind of company values that they have, and obviously knowing a little bit about what the company does, and perhaps, you know, making sure you've got that under your belt so that you can match those values in your application and CV. That's excellent. And as I say, Faye's been putting some of these things into the chat, and as this is our introductory session for students looking at apprenticeships and employment, what we will do is when we send these presentations out, which we'd be most grateful for Nikki and Liam if we could send those out to students together with the recording. We will be following this up, as I said, with some workshops for work experience, and obviously some further into the National Apprenticeship Week in February, with some events as well that will help students. Faye and myself are also available for one-to-one appointments for students to book into via the careers@keds.ac.uk. There haven't been any further questions in the chat function, but Oh, if we could just have microphones off just for a moment for everybody, that'd be really helpful. Thank you. And I wonder if I could just ask before we finish, if there aren't any more questions, and if there are any that come in afterwards, perhaps we could send those on to you both and get a reply for students. But Nikki, if you could just give one takeaway for students, what would that be? Because this has been brilliant for HWGTA to really encourage students about how the training company can work with students and how they can apply. So when are the key dates? You've mentioned about February the 17th to come and meet. Yep, 17th. Yeah. Is there anything else that students can be doing now?
I think they just need to keep an open mind, not to just chase those higher level apprenticeships. You know, don't see it as a step backward by going into a level 2 or level 3. It really isn't. It's just getting into that workplace, having access to those employers. And if you're driven and ambitious, you will go up that career ladder within no time whatsoever. You know, don't put too much pressure on yourselves to chase those higher level apprenticeships. Just keep an open mind. And as I said before, just apply for everything and just see what comes through over sort of like the springtime, really. I'm conscious that this has probably been a bit engineering bias. So if you did come to our open event, you would be able to hear apprentices talk about business, accountancy, customer service, same as Liam's done. You know, they will talk about their journey. Many of them, as I say, are in higher level apprenticeships, but started off lower. So that's a great opportunity. And if any time we can do this in the future, I would be quite happy to get somebody to come and do talk about business and accountancy as well, if that's any interest to any of your students about their pathway.
Thank you, Nikki. That's really helpful. And what about yourself, Liam? A takeaway for students?
I think it's your time when you're working, you know, your working life is a massive part of your whole career. You just need to find something that you actually enjoy doing. That is the biggest thing. I come to work every day and I don't think, oh, I've got to go to work today, I've got to go and do this. I think, oh, I've got this opportunity, I can learn this, I can do this, I can save the company this much money by doing this. It's really, you've got to find something that you enjoy. And once you do that, it's not work anymore. I think that's the biggest thing.
That's brilliant, and I think actually what that opens up is it's a great thing to walk through a door and not know exactly what's on the other side, but to give it a chance. And I think if you never walk through the door, you never find out. So thank you very much indeed to Nikki and to Liam, and to all of the students and parents online. We're really grateful that you joined us this evening for this speaker series, and there will be further speaker events coming up shortly, which we'll be advertising through in student briefing and on our website. Nikki and Liam, thank you very much indeed for the time this evening, and we will send everything round to students so that they can look at all of the links as well that Faye has been putting in the chat. All the very best to everybody, and look forward to meeting you all both again. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.